I would say it all depends on your imagination and creativity. First of all, you have to be creative enough to pursue into the design field. Is AI going to take our jobs? CEOs of AI companies have also mentioned that AI is not going to take your job.
As you said, AI is not going to take your job. AI
Yeah.
is going to change your job. So you need to
Yes.
definitely adapt.
When we talk about the consistency, it's very important that single team is handling everything. Even if you're making something for HR department, if we are making something for the marketing, for the product, for the text, so everything is aligned, worked around the multiple themes, came out with multiple color palettes, fonts, and everything. These things are very initial for when you are building a design language for a brand because everything matters.
Hey there, welcome to Design Oops by Indiefolio. Today we have Harvinder Singh with us, the head of design at Shiprocket, a fast growing unicorn in the logistics space. Today we unpack Harvinder's journey, where he started off as a jewelry designer, transitioned to graphic design, then UI design, to then becoming the head of design at a large company and leading the entire team from one to now many, many people. We also ask a lot of questions which will help a lot of young designers understand what path they should choose to grow their careers and a lot of advice for design leaders as well. Thanks a lot for your time, Harvinder, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Kavan, how are you? Thank you for inviting me.
It's always a pleasure to have you and to talk to you. Harvinder, with design, oops, the whole idea behind this podcast was to speak to design leaders today in hyper growth companies in large MNCs and talk to them about their journey and even unpack design ops generally. The first question I had for you is that when did you decide to build a career in design? I think, if I'm not wrong, you also did your undergrad, you did a formal degree in art and design. And usually it's very hard to convince parents to, trust us and, pick design as a stream. So, how did that entire conversation go, and when did you decide you want to build a career in this?
So actually, I belong to a business family, and my father used to run a jewelry business. So it all started from there only. And he also, when he started his career, he also used to make the entire jewelry ornaments from his own hands. So then he went into retail and wholesale as well. So when I grew up, I went with him to his office, and I like the way things getting made. How jewelry actually always fascinated me because you find everything unique in itself, from gold, diamond, and everything. So from there, I started to have a sense that I need to go into the design field. Firstly, I started to design jewelry only. I used to draw sketches and everything. Then I used to take it to my father that how is it's looking, and can we make something out of it in real. So from that, my journey started, and then I shifted to graphic designing over the period of time. Then I went into UI UX as well.
Got it, got it. So it was basically your exposure to your dad's business, where I think you just picked up like a software or picked up a pen and paper and I think started
Yes,
drawing.
yes,
Um, you know, you've now also like built a team and you've been in multiple companies. You must be aware that there are so many people in the market today who you know learn design formally, and there are people who learn design, let's say, of YouTube today. So,
Hmm.
do you think like having a degree in design really makes a difference?
Uh, so in my opinion, I would say it all depends on your imagination and creativity. First of all, you have to be creative enough to pursue into the design field, firstly, and then secondly, I think degree matters at some point, but the thing is, you can learn designing or take inspiration from anywhere in the world. Even if you are walking on the street, you will see something so simple and minimal, and you will find some inspiration. So I think it's all depend on everyone's each person's perception that whether they want to pursue go with the degree or something or not, or they, as you have mentioned, that people are have started learning from YouTube, especially after COVID. I would say people went to online classes more, like YouTube and Winmo as well, where they find good tutorial videos or good mentors from where they can learn, and they also provide some certification and stuff. But at the end, it all depends on your creativity, as I mentioned earlier, and how you are upskilling yourself and how things are going and how you make things creatively, uh, and how you produce some good designs which speaks out when you look at it.
Absolutely. I think, you know, so Harvinder, I wanted to ask you, I think about a decade ago, you made the jump from graphic design to UI. And a lot of people want to do the same thing. They are doing graphic design, but they see a lot of excitement with UI and product design. So, what's the best way to make a jump from graphic to UI?
I think my mentors at that time told me that if you are good at graphic designing, good at what you make in the graphic design field, but you should now focus on UI UX as well, because it's going to be the game changing in the future. Because everyone at that time, 10 years ago, everyone was using laptops the most or desktops, but now everyone is on the mobile phone when you're shopping and everything, doing everything on my phone. So then it hit my mind कि चलो यार इसको pursue करना चाहिए. Let's figure out a way. So I think it's when you are diving into UI UX and graphic design at the same time, you are crafting visuals, you are shaping the entire experience for the user as well. So I believe it's a best of both worlds. From you can take uh, inspiration from designing, from UI, UX, and combine them both together and create a very good experience for the users. So, if anyone is looking to go into UI UX as well along with their graphic designing, they should continue doing both things together and shouldn't left one thing behind.
Understood. Understood. Um, you know, I wanted to ask you now that you've been a graphic designer, you've been a UI designer in various companies, and even when it comes to Shiprocket, you joined them before they were even called that. So you must have come across various design requests. So is it any particular design request which was really funny to you, which you'd like to share with us?
Funny, I would say now it's been 11 years with Shiprocket, and I think every designer, graphic designer or the UA designer always get multiple funniest requirements over the period of time. Uh, and I think I still do get some of funny requirements from various people. Uh, and but I think the funniest was one day I got a requirement from a person in the company. I won't take the name. So uh, he asked me to design a page for something related to showcase a new product feature launch, and he wanted me to design it in an hour and deliver it with the entire graphics and everything, not just the wireframe. Initially I thought he was asking for a wireframe only.
Huh.
So just reconfirmed from him, and he said, no, no, complete design. I know, no, you will be able to do it. So I looked at his face and I was like, हाँ मैं अभी अपने बस सॉफ्टवेयर खोलता हूँ, उसमें कुछ टाइप करता हूँ और 2 मिनट में पेज तैयार हो जाएगा यार. एंड ही वाज लाइक, यार क्यों मजाक कर रहे हो, आप फटाफट कर तो देते हो, आपकी स्पीड बहुत तेज है. एंड आई वाज लाइक, यार स्पीड तेज है, बट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, for a good quality design, you need to give some time. At least give me 3 4 hours so I can figure out a way that how I can come up with the good design. Then after
Absolutely.
that, we laughed at it, and it was like, but now feel the answer which I gave it to him sarcastically, that मैं कुछ टाइप करता हूँ और डिजाइन तैयार होगा. Now we have AI in our hand, so we have the capability of now designing things more faster by just typing things.
On that note, Arvinder, I think, I always felt ki, clients have always been pretty aggressive with clients, or you could say team members have been very aggressive with creative and design departments. We are the last mile. हमको ही सब फटाफट करके देना होता है, and they all want it quick, they all want it yesterday, they all wanted the best. And you know um, like you very well said, AI is actually making all that possible, or at least it is setting
Hmm.
expectations in people's mind कि यार अभी तो अभी टाइप तो करना है, मैं भी कर सकता हूँ. So
Hmm.
how do you think AI is going to really shape creative careers now, right? I'm glad you're saying that it's actually something you can use to become faster, but many people are scared कि मेरा job चला जाएगा. So what's your stance on this?
So, recently I conducted a workshop for AI for few people for the NGO. So everyone, even in our office itself, and when we are chit-chatting with each other on the lunch breaks and everything, whenever AI conversation starts, and multiple people have asked me the same question that is AI going to take our jobs? And I think not just me, but all the other leaders and in the field and even the CEOs of AI companies have also mentioned that AI is not going to take your job, firstly, but you need to prepare yourself. You need to learn about it so you can do much better job what you are doing at the moment. You are a good designer, you are a good graphic designer, you are a good UI UX designer, but AI is going to solve your day-to-day problems, day-to-day, it can give you solutions of the things which you spend hours or time. That same time you can utilize somewhere else of
Right.
building something new. So AI is not going to take someone's job, but I would suggest everyone should have the keen knowledge of how to use AI, not just the content part, but how to create designs, how to create imagery, how to work along creating UI and UX as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, as you said, AI is not going to take your job. AI
Mm.
is going to change your job. So you need to
Yes.
definitely adapt to that, because eventually, leaders, design teams, and companies are going to expect their designers to leverage AI. And we're in a similar stage, I feel, where in the 80s and 90s, these digital softwares like After Effects and Photoshop and Flash came, and a lot of people were still using hands and papers to create things. A lot of them put their hands up saying, यार ये तो मैं करूँगा ही नहीं. You're killing the true creativity, you're killing the
Hmm.
craft of a designer. And then, as I mean, the whole world's completely shifted, so technology doesn't really wait for anybody. So I think that's well said.
As you mentioned about the technology, I think technology is a way for you to adopt and make your life easier. You don't need to afraid from it. As you mentioned, the After Effects and Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator example. So no one knew that we could edit an image instantly. There was a time a few years back then when a person was just for metaphorically, a person is editing a picture and removing a background with the pen tool in Photoshop. Now
Mhm.
you just need to give a command in the Photoshop itself in the dialog box, remove the background, or just click on the remove background button itself. So it will
Right,
automatically remove the background. So it's saving your time, not taking your job, or no one should be insecure about it,
right.
and just learn and adopt yourself around it.
Absolutely. I think people need to be just like open to learning, and that in
Yes.
itself will make sure that you won't really get replaced by anything ever. Another thing I wanted to ask you, Rinder, is I believe you really like Paul Rand, and
Hmm.
I've seen that there's something you're he's a legend. I mean, there's a
Hmm.
huge fan following he has. So I wanted to ask you, since I have you here, that he has a lot of iconic works. If there's anyone you could maybe redesign or relook at, what would you do differently? What would be that project?
There are multiple projects on which he has worked, and I think he has become a legend in the design field, uh, without saying. And I think we should take inspiration from his work, firstly, and from all the designers or uh, designers out there. who are still with us and who are not. Uh, like Leonardo da Vinci is considered to be the greatest painter of all time. And people adore his paintings, especially the Mona Lisa one. And same goes with the Paul. And I think, as I mentioned, we should get inspired from their work, and we should consider their work as an inspiration. And but still, if you ask me, if I had a chance to work one of his projects, then I would say I would have been loved to work on IBM logo, which he designed, the blue stripe logo. I think it's still iconic, and, and the company is over 100 years now, and it still stands with it. And I would have given some kind of a modern or minimalistic. It's still minimalistic. I would have given modern gradient or some kind of a look and feel to it, just to uh, pop it out a bit more. But I think the current logo goes with the company's personality. So yeah, that's it. I would say inspirations matter the most. I still
Right.
play around with some of the his work in my free time as a hobby. That's it.
Awesome. Even I would pick the same because I think it's one very iconic work of his which stood the test of time for a long, long time. And it's so simple and so nice. I think that's also something he really speaks of, which is simplicity is very, very critical. So I'm glad you mentioned that. In a lot of companies, design teams operate separately, where there will be a design team for marketing, there will be a design team for UI, UX, and product, I mean. But I think, with Shiprocket, you actually are somebody who looks after design holistically in the entire company,
Hmm.
right? Be it product, be it marketing. So, how did you guys come to that decision as a company, and how has it has been for you? From looking at just graphic design to then UI, then to product, and now the entire marketing also you look after.
So, as you mentioned, I was the first designer which got hired in Shiprocket. Uh, Initially, it was Cart Rocket when I joined. Then the things started building up, and Shiprocket came along. So I think we decided, our CEO and I sat together. Uh, so we had a discussion around it, that we are expanding and how we should be doing things. And I think we came up with the solution that the team has to be centralized function. So there should be one design, one UI team, and same goes with the content and everyone. And because as you mentioned, there are companies where are different design teams for different departments, for product, for marketing, and other things. But we have kept it a centralized team, and I think it's a good thing for designers, engineering as well, for marketing people as well, that they are coordinating with the single team, and everyone gets to explore multiple things. In
Correct.
this way, a same designer is coordinating with the marketing team as well, working with them on particular campaigns. Uh, Same designer is working with the tech and engineering team or the product team as well, especially when designing some new UI and designing some new products. So creating visuals for them, for that particular product. I think the collaboration has to be there, and uh, you cannot function in a manner in silos actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I can see that come out pretty well, and I see a lot of companies are actually moving to this kind of a structure as well, where they feel that there should be a central creative and design authority, which makes sure that there is a uh, consistent brand language, is a consistent design language, which is there in all customer touch points. Um,
Because yes, and also when you talk about the consistency, it's very important that single team is handling everything. Uh, Even if you're making something for HR department, if we are making something for the marketing, for the product, for the text, so everything is aligned and everything uh, kept in the synchronization. So you
right.
don't lose the consistency of the brand language and brand tonality. So I think
Absolutely.
the collaborative effort has to be there, and single team should be uh, working on particular multiple things, and the team should be centralized itself. But each company has their own uh, rules or policies, how things are going, how things are going to function, and all.
Correct. I think it's there's no right or wrong answer, as you said. I
Hmm.
believe it really depends from company to company. So thanks for sharing that. You mentioned you went from being the only designer to now running an entire team. A lot of people who tune into this podcast will be folks who are looking for their first, second, or their third design job there earlier in their careers. What's your advice to people who want to, let's say, apply as a designer to a design team like yours? What do you look for in these designers which makes you choose them?
Hiring is a very crucial thing, I would say. Uh, because when you are looking for a designer, you're not just looking for portfolios, because anyone can work on their portfolios and come up with the good designs and everything, good design philosophy as well. I myself look for people who are hungry to learn and experiment, who can push the boundaries, especially. I look for people who can speak out about their ideas, openly discuss about it. Talent matters, but with the talent, the right attitude has to be there. A person should be creative problem solving, I would say. It's important to find a person who can challenge ideas, but also adopt with the bigger picture of the company as well.
Mm-hmm.
कि कंपनी की विजन क्या है, कंपनी के साथ उस बंदे की एटीट्यूड एंड पर्सनैलिटी मैच कर रही है कि नहीं कर रही. Because after hiring a person, it's very hard and difficult to manage things when uh, things get scattered कि टीम के साथ नहीं बन रही, या he or she would like to work in silos. तो वो
Hmm.
चीज नहीं होना चाहिए when you're hiring a person.
Correct. You mentioned attitude. So, can you tell me a little bit more about that, right? Like, what kind of an attitude should I develop to attract, so I can be more attractive to, design heads like you?
By attitude, I would say the person should fit with the core values of the company. Because whenever I'm interviewing someone, I give them a knowledge about our company values, especially, and I try to see that what kind of answers they are giving, and what kind of how they are reacting to each question. That also matters.
Sure.
And I think the best team is where a person can collaborate, even if you are not sitting on their head, because I don't want to sit on my team on their heads कि काम हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, but person has to take the responsibility and understand the uh, scenarios कि यार काम है तो वो काम अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लेके आपको करना पड़ेगा. यू हैव टू हैव अ सेट माइंड कि मेरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है. Because
Hmm.
if I take my own example, I am with Shiprocket from last 11 years, and I work in a manner that I'm working for my own company. I'm not working as an employee over there.
Right.
Because when you have that kind of attitude in your mind, then you give your 1,000%. I won't say 100%. You put in your 1,000% to
Right.
make the company grow, and what you do give your best.
Absolutely. I think, accountability and ownership are such amazing, traits to actually double down on, where more and more people think, I think the younger generation is getting more and more, I would say, aloof and discouraged with kind of giving their all. And I would rather feel that, I think in the earlier stages of a career, like, find somebody, find a company, find a team, find a mentor who actually can, train you and give it your all. The next 10 years and 20 years of your careers actually will see a huge exponential growth, because only when you get your hands dirty and give it your all,
Hmm.
you'll get access to more information. So I think that's very
So
well put.
So, to your point, where you mentioned that even in your early stages, there should be a person who can guide you and teach you. I think with that, it's also very important that the person should be eager to learn as well. Because
Right.
आप स्कूल में भी अगर जाओगे तो स्कूल में भी आपको company is not like a school, but I'll give you a example of a school that when a teacher is teaching you something in the classroom, if you are not giving attention to it, or you are
Right.
thinking यार बाद में कर लूंगा हो जाएगा देख लूंगा, so that sort of attitude doesn't work in the corporate industry world, or in the any other in the companies. So you should have a attitude of respectful to your team as well, respectful to your mentors as well, and you should be eager to learn things. You shouldn't be like कि यार हो जाएगा कर लेंगे, because कंपनी में आप आओगे फिर then you will be like कि ठीक है आप एग्जीक्यूशन कर रहे हो काम कर रहे हो जाएगा ठीक है, then you won't grow with the company.
Absolutely. I think, it's a very good point. I feel teachers, I mean, in school rather is a place where, there's a certain curriculum to growth or to success. And then it's on you how much extra you go the mile. And the more extra you go, the more chances of you doing well. And people just tend to forget this the moment they enter the corporate world, where they are like, yaar, bola nahi hai to kyun karu? Or if
Hmm.
this is not expected, then why should I? And in fact, that's the biggest chunk which just falls into the trap of mediocrity. And the ones who don't wait for a brief, who don't wait for a direction and just do it because they like doing what they do, or they're just curious, as you said earlier on the chat, actually end up doing very, very well. So, yeah, don't just wait for people to put things on your platter, right? If you really want to grow and learn and be successful, make your own to do list. And I'm sure that that's something everybody will appreciate.
Yes, on the same note, I'll just give you one more example. When you're looking for to hire a good designer or a person who can fit into your company. So even till now, when I've become I've gained a leadership role in the company at Shiprocket. So still even uh, now I get feedbacks from management as well on the design or UI front as well. I take it as an in a as a learning curve कि यार कुछ बोल रहे हैं कुछ समझा रहे हैं, तो if they are giving out some feedback, so we should take it in a positive way.
Right.
But I have seen in the some of the other designers, not in our company but somewhere else, where people are like कि यार मेरा काम तो अच्छा था, मेरे को फीडबैक इतना क्यों मिला है दूसरे को नहीं मिला, या फिर मैं जल्दी आता हूँ ये लेट आता है. Some people don't follow the normal basic policies of the company. So I think people should take criticism in a positive way. If anyone is providing you the feedback on your work, it means see, either you can take it or leave it. Wala situation.
Right.
If you're going
Right.
to take it and it improvises your work, it means
Yeah.
it is important, and it should have been implemented, and you have implemented it, then it's looking good to you, means okay, अच्छा था feedback. अगर मेरे पास भी आज के डेट में कोई feedback आता है, I do try it,
Mm-hmm.
and I present the both the things कि
Right.
ये आपका feedback था, ये मेरा suggestion था, अब आप compare कर लो. So
Fantastic.
that kind of a attitude has to be there.
Right. I think, again, some really, really solid advice where, I think if you really want to convince your team, um, we have the advantage as designers to actually just create more options, because design sometimes is an iterative process. You have to show and tell.
It's a very
And I
subjective
think,
thing.
yeah, correct, exactly. And that's why, you have to also realize that it's a service and we are there to serve our customer, we're there to serve our boss, we're there to serve our colleague. While at the end of the day, data speaks, I do agree with that. You have to do your job to also make sure that whatever is in your mind, you're actually able to execute that in a way where they feel that they are being heard to. It's you got to empathize with the user is what we learn in design. So I think that's again, some really solid advice. Um, I want to now go into the design operations part of our conversation. The reason I wanted to do this conversation with design leaders like you is because I feel that design teams are just going to get bigger now in India. There are going to be more managers required. There are going to be more team members, who will need to hire more team members, and that's why a lot of people talk about what's good design, how to design something which works, UX versus UI, blah blah. But I don't see a lot of people talking about design operations, right? Design
Hmm.
operations essentially, for a lot of people who are not aware, is something, it's a department or a function within a company which is there to help other designers do well. So your team, your your processes, your tools, your workflows come into these buckets. And the bigger the team, the harder it is to make sure that everybody gets the brand, gets the language, etc. Now, you know, you've been in one company for over a decade where new people have been added, new features have been added, with you, new responsibilities have been added, as you said, design, advertising, marketing. Um, I'm sure the language and the process is kept on evolving, right? You also have a seller side app, you've got an app, you've got a website. I'm sure you have your own robust backend. So, what's your general, approach to building such a robust design process and design language? If you could unpack that, how Shiprocket and its design team actually delivers on all this would be really insightful.
Firstly, when I was hired decade ago, the company just started uh, their journey. They were into 2 years in the field, and there was no set guideline at that point of time. But as we evolved, I got a gist. I looked at many bigger brands like Google and Facebook and everyone else. So what I saw that they have a systematical approach towards to maintain the consistency across all their platforms, whether it's their apps, their websites, their backends, and so and so. So I started building guidelines around it for our company, and that what should be the color palette, what kind of a fonts we should be using, uh, what kind of a imagery we will be using. So it took some time, but we eventually built it, and now we constantly use the same guidelines all over the company. And whatever we are building, we have our own design system as well in place, uh, which will be sooner be live for the public as well. Uh, we are going to launch the website, and but in-house we are using the same thing. And whenever we are get a requirement from product tech or marketing side, we have a set guidelines place. What kind of a social media post should go out there, what design language and tonality has to be used, and all the designers, even if you hire a new designer, they go through a training around the guidelines for 2 3 days at least, and he or she works, or we give them a particular task to see that how they are following the guidelines and how they are perfecting it. So I think there has to be a design system in place and design guidelines in place. So whether it's a older employee or the new hire, they all should feel very comfortable around it, and they shouldn't um, feel like कि यार बहुत ज्यादा अलग ही tone है, because some people come from some different kind of a company who were into B2C or C2C. So we are a SaaS-based company. We are B2 into B2B as well. So um, design, uh, the way we present our creatives, the what we show on the creatives on for the social media for internal purposes, or in our apps or the website as well, they get to get particular timeline to learn around it, adopt themselves around it. So it makes their life easier.
Right.
साथ साथ मेरा थोड़ा टाइम बच जाता है कि फीडबैक कम देना पड़ता है.
Right, right, absolutely. One challenge I see here with Harvinder, is a lot of times I see companies make really elaborate design systems and they even train their team during an onboarding. But क्या होता है after like a few months, people forget it, because design is such a thing that every day you also get ideas and you keep on adding one element here, then one element there, and then you are like, यार for this use case can I break the language, and then you are like
हम्म.
चलो ठीक है अच्छा लग रहा है कर दो, and then that happens 10 times over 2 years, and then the whole language only looks different, and then people are confused कि
हम्म.
यार how to adopt this, how not to adopt this. I see that happen quite often. So I'm sure a lot of design managers who are listening to this must be struggling with the same thing. So how do you make sure that for every collateral, every screen you make live, the design language is actually being followed?
So I'll just take an example of a social media post. And when you change the font for the first time and it's looking good, and if you approve it, okay, it went live, okay, अच्छा traffic भी आ गया, सब कुछ हो गया. उसके बाद a designer starts feeling I'll try something new again. एक बार ये प्रूव हो गया तो डेफिनेटली अगली बार भी हो जाएगा. But we have set a guidelines in a manner for that, for example, for the topical days where there are festival wishes we are sending out. So at that point, we change stuff. We change the fonts or typography or styling of the creative because it's not related to a company's product or company's product feature
Right.
around it. We are just wishing them out, greeting them. So we have set a design language around it to make the life easier for everyone कि नॉर्मल हमारे डे टू डे पोस्ट और प्रोडक्ट फीचर्स के लिए ये टोनालिटी चलेगी. For topical days, we can change and come up with some more creative ideas and innovate around the visuals. For example, if I want to wish for Diwali, so I need to show some Diwali elements in it. I need to have a nicer looking font for the Happy Diwali. Or even if Halloween is coming, if I am wishing to uh, uh, sellers or customers in the US for our international product services. So I need to use the Halloween pumpkins around it. I cannot use a simple background and just write down Happy Halloween. So we have
Right.
built the language accordingly. So
Got it.
we do give a
Got it.
freedom
You know,
of experimenting with such posts.
100%. I think, that's a very important point where rigidity actually is going to hamper your, brief, your guide and adherence a lot. And what people try to do is, I will give one language for every use case and I'll give
Hmm.
one, subfolder for every use case. And what happens is you spend so much time doing that level of detailing and then फिर कोई करता ही नहीं है. So I think that's again a brilliant point you brought up. I want to now
But
talk
yes,
about yeah, sorry.
sorry, I interrupted. So I just wanted to add one more point, but there has to be checks around it. Each and every uh, post or visuals, if anything is going out, there has to be checks around it, whether I am checking it or the other senior designers in the team have to check it.
Right.
Even the content teams have to check the entire and proofread the entire content before it goes out. And that also maintains the consistency.
Absolutely. I think a QC step generally makes sure that you're able to tighten everything and you just help
Yes.
everybody make sure that we're talking the same language. You said that a new refreshed language is, I believe, getting live soon, and I wanted to ask you about that particular question also. There in the earlier days you see a lot of students, especially who were uploading on Behance, doing these redesigns, where they would make Facebook into fully yellow, they'll make WhatsApp into blue, and they used to feel pretty cool about it. But they forget that, yeah, there's a personality which goes into actually building a brand. There's certain recall value which also is there when you're redesigning a product which you retain. So I wanted to touch upon brand personality, where today if I'm sitting and kind of making a brand personality for my company, how do I actually go about doing that? If you can kind of unpack that in terms of even Shiprocket as an example, that'll be really helpful.
Uh, so see, whenever a designer is making something and uploading on Behance, because I have also gone through multiple portfolios, uh, and I have seen people, as you mentioned, people are changing the entire design language and user interfaces and experience of Facebook or WhatsApp and giving them a new look from uh, they are changing the entire guidelines of the product. I think, but they are not using it on anywhere else. They're just showcasing their skills and they're just using their creativity that how things can look and how in their own way they can change the entire experience and the thought process of a user. And same goes with at Shiprocket because we are uh, as I mentioned earlier that we are soon going to launch our entire design system, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which will be open to anyone. to use and check out, and it's called Interstellar. Uh,
Nice. I love
so
that name.
thank you. So we thought to give a name around the space and exploration kind of a thing.
If you can kind of tell us a little bit about like how you ended up, let's say, understanding what Shiprocket's unique personality is and how that actually translated into the colors, the layouts, the language you've built. I think I'm super curious to know about that.
So I think when we were developing, we changed the design language few years back. Initially, it was something else. If you Google it and see our old logos of Kart Rocket and stuff, it was completely different.
Mm-hmm.
What it is now. So
Mm-hmm.
I worked around the multiple themes, came out with multiple color palettes, fonts, and everything. Because these things are very initial for when you are building a design language for a brand.
Right.
Uh, because everything matters. And we came up with the multiple iterations in the logo, for the color palettes and everything. And we all sat together and we kind of like the purple and green brand colors around it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it was not like we just picked it and used it.
Mm-hmm.
We read about the color theory. We read about the what kind of a colors we should be using, what kind of a colors we shouldn't be using. And
Mm-hmm.
I think after that, I'm looking at multiple brands who are using purple these days. We sometimes feel very good. यार purple सारे use कर रहे हैं. I know they are using their own techniques and their own design languages. It feels really good to see that the palette which we have chosen was the right one. Everyone is adopting to it. They're not. I'm not saying anyone has copied it, but it's out there,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
each color speaks out for itself, has a reason as well. If I'm using a green color palette or a purple color palette or blue or black, it has their own significant meaning as well.
Right.
I think it's a very basic thing to develop the design language in the initial days itself. Even when
Mm-hmm.
a new company is getting started, it should be
Mm-hmm.
there from the start when you are designing the logo itself.
Got it. Got it. Absolutely. I think you kind of unpacked it really well, and I feel that the color combinations also you chose, purple and green, are not very conventional, but they definitely have picked up quite a bit. And you see a lot of companies, especially tech, SaaS, and fintech companies, use purple quite a lot. I think good to hear the early adopters talking about the story about the same.
And
Um,
And as an adoption, I would say that when we were developing this palette and everything, that whatever website I was clicking on, I was looking at, it was all into
yeah.
blue, gray, white. I was like, क्या चल क्या रहा है? मतलब थोड़ी मोनोटनी तोड़नी पड़ेगी, अब देखना पड़ेगा, कुछ और ही यूज करते हैं, थोड़ा अलग करना पड़ेगा.
Correct, correct, absolutely.
And even I
Uh,
would say that when we were designing the logos and the palettes, our co-founders helped a lot. They
wow,
sat
fantastic.
with me and they helped in, यार इसको ऐसा करते हैं, इसको ऐसा करते हैं. So at that kind of a when you have that kind working in that kind of an environment and a company where your uh, co-founders also sit with you and guide you, यार ऐसा करके देखते हैं कैसा होता है. Then you also feel like encouraged and you come up with the uh, great ideas as well, and you develop something new. I think that was the case. What happened with us?
Great, that's amazing to hear. I think usually it's a very top-down approach, but if they really collaborate with you, I think things just happen better, faster, and hopefully smoother also. Um, I want to now move towards the last two questions we have here, almost at time. Uh, First one which I wanted to check with you is design principles, right? I think are something which creative people hold very close to, especially UX UI folks. Any particular design principle which is like your go-to design principle?
I think over the period of time, everyone develops their own principles around the designs and
Mm-hmm.
their philosophy uh, which they use in creating and building a brand and design language. And I think mine is very simple, and I think many of the leaders out there uh, would be following the same. Uh, I think less is more always. Simplicity easy नहीं होती. You have when you are working on something very simple, it's very hard to produce. So so, one of the biggest lesson which I have learned over the past years, कि, uh, when you are designing something simple, it has to be minimal. It's st the can we start again, particularly this segment? Uh,
Please go for it. Yeah.
just for this particular part, you can take the initial one.
Sure.
Um, so I think, the less is more, as I mentioned, and the simplicity has to be there, and collaborative part has to be there. You should be able to collaborate with the entire multiple stakeholders and multiple teams, and the design has to be problem solving, not just aesthetics. I believe if you are designing something visually appealing and it's not good as a user experience, then it doesn't matter.
True that.
So I follow a simple rule which I tell every designer in my team. It's EIC. All E stands for explore. Always explore for new ideas and new perspective. I stands for imagine. You have to inspire your creativity and envision the boundless possibilities. And the C stands for create. At the end, you have to create something which is impactful visually, but also from a user experience point of view.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I think very well summed up, right? EIC. I think it's a great way for you to, I think, actually even reflect and see, what you're up to. And less equals to more is my favorite. If you ask the indie folio team, I probably say it once a day to for sure to them in something. So I resonate very deeply on that. Harvinder, coming to the last question now. I mentioned to you how, right now design teams are just going to grow and grow, and there's a huge demand now for the mid-level professionals to stand up now as design leaders, because more and more companies will start, more and more companies will demand design leadership to join them. So as somebody who's a design leader today, what advice do you have for other design leaders, right? If I was somebody who was maybe a principal designer or a senior designer somewhere, and I want to kind of become a head of design or a design lead somewhere, what is like the best advice you can give to them to prep themselves up for such a role?
I think when you are working as a designer or a UI designer as well, then and if you have a thought in your mind that you need to grow and you need to um, go to someday you have to have a leadership position in the company or where you're currently working or where you will be working in the future. So I think to moving to a leadership role, you need to be able to dive into details whenever it's needed, and you have to see the bigger picture, and you are working in the if I take my example, we are working in a fast-paced company. Okay, and it's all about agility, and you have to juggle around with the design thinking and with the business requirements as well, because business requirement changed very drastically sometimes, and even the marketing strategies change instantly, कि आज हम
Right.
ऐसे नहीं इस तरह से हमें आप strategy plan करनी पड़ेगी. You have to adopt yourself in that manner. You cannot be like कि यार एकदम से कैसे हो गया, हम तो इस पे काम कर रहे थे, हम इस पे शिफ्ट हो गए, ऐसा नहीं, हमें
Correct.
पहले बताना चाहिए था. So you cannot have that kind of a thought process. Uh, then you have to be adaptable. You have to communicate like a pro with with all the stakeholders and the teams, and you have to inspire your team as well.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're working in a small group of people in a team, whether you are on the same position, so even then you have to have that kind of a mindset that you should be helping them out as well and inspiring them in such a way,
Right.
because if you want to become a leader, you have to um, start thinking like a leader. You cannot be like कि आज मैंने सोचा और मैं कल शाम तक लीडर बन जाऊंगा. It doesn't work like that. Even the biggest
Absolutely.
leaders in the world in the industries, They are not built in that way. Uh, and you have to uh, align your vision with the company's vision, which is the most important thing. Because until unless you don't relate to it, you are not going to be at that kind of a position.
Superb. I think very well put. I feel the higher you go up the chain as a designer, it becomes less about the design but more about the business and the customer. And I
Hmm.
always see that the people who understand कि यार what's my business about and what really my customer wants, I think they tend to become the best leaders because obviously they know how to make great experience. But you can only make a great experience when you know more about the company and the customer at the end of the day. So I think some very, very solid advice once again. Thanks a lot, Harvinder. I think this marks the end of the podcast. I'm glad we finally found time and we did this. I hope you had a good time.
No, no, definitely, Gavan, and I am grateful that you have invited me on this podcast. And if I am able to answer your questions in a well-mannered way and perfectly, then I would say that if it helps in any way to the aspiring designers and the UI designers out there, it will be really great.
Awesome, awesome. No, no, I'm so glad you came in. Trust me, I think your journey, your background is something a lot of people would want to kind of replicate. A lot of folks have done graphic thing. They can't ever do UI UX. They can do UX. They can't ever think they can do marketing, and then leave alone leading an entire billion-dollar company's creative and design arm. So I think it'll definitely be a lot of validation for people who are actually dreaming, chasing these aspects. So once again, thanks for that. And everybody who's also stuck along so far in our conversation, thank you so much to you as well. If you'd like to hear another design leader like Harvinder, please like, share, and subscribe. A new episode will be coming out very, very soon. Thank you so much.